Looming strike in the health sector, food shortage in senior high schools, and the call to reduce the number of ministers. Hello, this is John News Prime with me, Ernest Manu. In our top packages, this are all health sector unions and professionals, including doctors, to strike by August 1 if members are not paid COLA. Also, public senior high schools across the country are on the verge of being shut down as acute food shortage persists despite government assurances that supplies have been dispatched to them. The Eastern Regional Chapter of CHAS is the latest to issue the 15 July ultimatum to shut down the schools. We'll bring you details. Also in this package, Majority Leader Osache Mensah-Bonsu is suggesting a cut in the number of ministers to 19 to help save the public purse.
Of our ministers do not add value to our governance. The time has come for us to seriously introspect on this. And hasn't the time come for us to place in the Constitution an upper ceiling on the number of ministers of state?
Tonight we have exclusive details as the Privileges Committee of Parliament concludes work on Sarah Adwoa when two other MPs refer to them for absenting themselves from Parliament for more than 15 sittings. Hello again, thanks for choosing us. Now, doctors, pharmacists, nurses and other health workers across the country have served notice they will withdraw their services if government fails to pay their cost of living allowance, that's COLA. The unions include the Ghana Medical Association, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives, Health Services Workers Union and Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association. In a statement, the Joint Health Sector Unions and Professionals Association say they will boycott both inpatient and outpatient services by August 1 if the government fails to address their concerns. Let's look at the details of the statement released a while ago. And it says joint press release on demand for 30% COLA of living allowance by joint health sector unions. It says that the Ghana Medical Association, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Health Services Workers Union of TUC Ghana, and Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association. These associations, being constitute members of organized labor, made a request to government for 20% cost of living allowance for members in the light of the prevailing difficult economic situation in the country. Unfortunately, like other members of organized labor, we are yet to receive a favorable response from government. We had hoped that the meeting convened by government with organized labor on the 12th of July 2022 would have resolved the issue, but the meeting failed to achieve its objective. We therefore serve notice to government as an employer that if by the 22nd July 2022, the negotiations on COLA is not completed, the aforementioned health sector unions will have no other choice than to embark on a series of actions as spelled out below, which will no doubt disturb the industrial harmony within the health sector. So they go on to list activities. It says from 25th to the 27th of July 2022, wearing of red arm or wristbands in all health facilities. 28th to the 31st of July 2022, withdrawal of outpatient department services, and on the 1st of August 2022, there will be the withdrawal of OPD and inpatient services. And this is signed by leadership of all the four unions. Dr. Titus Bayo there, signing for the GMA. We also have the president of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Mrs. Perpetual Oforiampofo. And then there's Franklin Owusu Ansa, signing on behalf of the Health Services Workers Union. And then Nathan Kumsen, signing on behalf of the Hospital Pharmacists Association, Government Hospital Pharmacists Association. So that is the latest on the labor front. I will be bringing you more in our subsequent bulletins. But let's focus now on education. Senior high schools in Ghana face an imminent shutdown due to the shortage of food in their stores. Earlier this week, the Upper West Regional Chapter of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools issued a 15 July ultimatum to shut down the schools if food is not provided. In response, the Ministry of Education announced supplies will be released by Tuesday, the 12th of July. But John News checks revealed the schools are yet to receive the supplies. the Eastern Regional Chapter of CHAS is the latest to serve notice of a possible shutdown of schools. We'll get you that shortly and bring you those details. But first, here's a report from the Volta region. Fred Kwame reports.
Nationwide teacher union strike is taking a heavy toll on academic activities in the senior high schools. Joint news checks in some schools in the Volta region revealed that students were left unattended to as the teachers deserted the classrooms. In Maoli School, for instance, some teachers were seen around. Sections of the students were seen in their dorms with others loitering around. Some were seen participating in sporting activities while others made use of the library. The strike has also affected feeding in some schools because some kitchen workers who are classified as non-teaching staff have joined the industrial action. Students of the Awudome Senior High School were compelled to feed on their own on Saturday due to the absence of the cooks. The kitchen, however, resumed work on Sunday when staff being paid by the school returned from a funeral to cook for the students. Joy News has learned that the management of some schools in the region have communicated to parents that the awards will not be fed during the strike. The students have been relying on their provisions and food from the canteen. Some students have lamented the situation.
Everyone is on strike. Students are spending their work money because
the students hope that the government comes to an agreement with the teachers so they return to the classrooms within the shortest possible time. Fred Kwame, Joy News.
Let's get the latest from the Eastern region, where my colleague Joseph Akable has been running checks today. Joseph, we understand that the situation is dire in the schools there in the Eastern region. What more can you report?
Yes, Ernest. In fact, there are some schools that simply have food stock that can last them for between 2 to 3 days. Specifically, we are looking at rice. And so they are looking forward to receiving the food items that the ministry has indicated has been released to them, because the fear is that if it doesn't come in time, it will mean that they will run out of food and they will simply not know what they can cook for the students, and the students would have to fend for themselves. In fact, what we found on the ground is that this has been a problem that has been around for a while now. The schools have, over the period, adjusted the quantities of meal that is served to students. Some of them have had to introduce new meals. In one school, they've introduced eba as part of the menu to replace kinki, because they said that maize, they've been told that maize has been in short supply for some time now. And so they introduced eba as a substitute, and now they eat kinki just once in a week, as against about twice that they used to do in the past. And so that has been how they have been adjusting. And it's one of a situation where they are simply expecting that they pick the food supplies as soon as possible.
But Joseph, there's also a problem with the kitchen, because the kitchen staff are also supposed to be part of the strike. What did you observe in the region when you visited a few of the schools there?
In fact, for a number of the places that I went to, the kitchen staff, they are actually available and cooking for the students. The teachers are the ones who were not present in the classrooms. And so for schools that run both day and boarding students, stream of students, what we noticed is that a good number of the day students actually did not show up to class. Okay. And so you just have the boarders who come over from their dormitories to classrooms, and they are just sitting there. A few of them who are writing their WASI in about 2 months' time, they are trying to study on their own, while the others, they simply sit in the classrooms, and when it's time for dining, they go and feed on the little that is available in the dining hall. And so, and that is how they are coping in the schools currently, Ernest.
Joseph, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed with the situation in the Eastern region. Let's go to the Upper West region now, where the heads are counting down to the 15 July ultimatum that they gave to government. Rafiq Salam is our man there. Rafiq, what can you report? The ministry said food should be in the schools as of Tuesday, yesterday. Do you have any confirmation of receipt? Rafiq, you'd have to unmute.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I'm saying that there's no receipt of these food items that you are talking about. There's no scintilla actually of any food item in the region. The information that I have gleaned on indicates that the buffer stock are saying that they are going to treat the issue of the Upper West region as an agent one. And then also, so today, this afternoon, they have gotten some people into the market, at least to do some market survey, so that they will buy the items for the schools here in the Upper West region. And so by noon, that list or that price list was given to the buffer stock, and up to now, the schools have not gotten anything. But I've also visited 2 schools in the one municipality here. There was Senior High Technical School, and then also there was Senior High School. And so the students are really saying that they are really at their wit's end because they are not being fed what they are supposed to do. Every week they are expected to do to eat at least tozafi for only one time, but nowadays every day it's either TZ or rice that they are giving them, and so the students have a lot of concern that they are likely going to get beriberi. And so some of them said that they haven't prepared before they came to school, but this imminent shortage of food is really having a lot of heat on them, and so they are not able to concentrate at classes.
Rafik, thank you very much. Let's come down to the central region where we are learning that parents are even contributing monies in some of the schools to support feeding. Richard Kojo Manu, what more are we learning from the region?
That's exactly the case. If you come to the grade A schools, parents come together because there are no teachers involved in the PTA now. We have the parent association, so they have come together because there have been concerns from their children who attend such schools that the quantity and the quality of food served them at the dining hall leaves much to be desired. And so some of the parents even complained that some of their wards, when they came home, they had actually lost weight, and it was actually also affecting academic work. So at PTA meeting, they agreed. And so for Wesley Girls, for instance, parents had to part with 500 Ghana cedis. And so they got a feedback from their children that as soon as the monies were paid, the quantity of the food and the quality of the food increased. And so they were very, very happy. And it is not only in that particular school, but we understand it's in most of the grade A schools in the central region. For the grade B and the grade C schools, we do not know what, because the demand of such money would be met with some state for position, and so they are not even going that. So now what is happening in such schools is that there are petty thievery, and so the authorities are saying that the reports they receive from the hostel masters and then the boarding house authorities indicate that people break into the chop boxes of their colleagues simply for food and not for any other thing, and so they have had cause to deal with that. And so that is the situation currently, but they have not also taken any receipt of the food that the ministry has been talking about, that they had they had made a car or vehicle to bring such food items to the schools in the central region.
Richard, thank you very much. So that's the situation in our senior high schools. Let's return to the labor front now. If you're senior staff in any public university in the country, you are not supposed to go to work until otherwise directed by the union. According to your union leaders, this action is to compel government to pay you a cost of living allowance. That's 20% of your base pay. The action is also expected to have all your accrued interest from Tier 2 pensions arrears paid. The Senior Staff Association announced their decision at a news conference in Accra. My colleague Samuel Bura has more in this report.
These members of the Senior Staff Association at the public universities of Ghana are unhappy about the current economic situation in the country. They feel neglected and cheated by the employer. According to them, their salaries can no longer meet their needs. Hence, their demand for COLA is in the right direction.
I buy fuel 600 a week. So my salary is 2,700 for a month. And I buy fuel 2,400. What should I take home now? It's affecting us. It's affecting our families.
The government of the day does not respect senior staffs in the public universities. That is one of the reasons why we are withdrawing all our tools. Therefore, all we are saying is that the government must be sensitive to our plight. They should listen to their own members, because without us, the universities cannot run.
So if you are giving allowances to a senior staff, it should be across board, from chief to AA. But here's the case: they are given to principals and chiefs, and the AA category and SAA are not covered. And we found it discriminatory.
National Secretary of the Association, Hector Owohina Champon, said government must treat all staff fairly and equally.
One, the insensitivity of government to grant the proposed 20% COLA to senior staff cadre of public universities in Ghana. Two, refusal by the government to extend generic allowances to all senior staff of public universities in Ghana. The leadership finds it outrageous to believe, as there are no such documents, which stipulates that such allowances should be given to entitled staff, which is alien to the scheme of service of public universities in Ghana.
The association is also unhappy that there is a failure in payment of accrued interest on the Tier 2 pension arrears from 2010.
Failure by the government to pay the accrued interest on Tier 2 pension arrears from 2010 to 2016, out of which some members had died due to the emotional stress they went through. It is sad to note that most of these people have served the universities and Mother Ghana wholeheartedly between 25 to 35 years and go home with a scanty amount as their Tier 2 lump sum. In all sincerity, do you expect us to continue rendering our services in the wake of of this injustice?
Another reason for this indefinite strike is a failure by management of public universities to regularize casual workers, upgrade senior staff to senior members' positions. The Senior Staff Association, Universities of Ghana, says it will only return to work if these demands are met. Samuel Mbura, Joy News.
Now let's return to Parliament. Joy News can report that the Privileges Committee of Parliament has by a majority decision voted to pardon Asin Central MP Kennedy Japan and the Yawasu Central MP Henry Korte, both of them who absented themselves from the House for more than 15 consecutive sittings last year. The decision on the two NPP MPs, according to Joy News sources, were by a majority vote. No decision has been made on the Dome Kwabenya NP, Sarah Joasafo, yet, as the committee prepares to lay its report before the plenary. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has been working on his sources in the committee and joins me with details. Kweku, we understand the decision on Kennedy Japan and Henry Korte was by a majority decision. Give us the details of what transpired at the committee. Well, Kweku, if you can hear me, what actually went into that decision, which we now know was a majority decision as far as Kennedy Japan and Henry Korte are concerned, with the issue that was referred to the Privileges Committee? Why have they been pardoned?
So as we understand, the minority MP wanted some more documents from the two MPs before they could decide on whether or not their explanation was satisfactory. They did not, because according to the majority, the explanation that they had offered were reasonable enough, and so they were going to recommend them to the plenary that they be pardoned. That was the explanation from the source that I have. What the minority decided to do was to push it to a vote, but when it came to the time to vote, they abstained, because, of course, they just did not have the numbers to be able to carry through if they wanted to reject these two MPs. So it became quite of a tussle between both sides, but the majority won in the end because they had the numbers.
What happens to Sarah Joasafo now? There's no decision on her. Why is that?
So the explanation has been offered is that because the MP has not been reached out and they've not been able to interview her, it's much.
Well, we lost Kweku Asante down the line, but details will be given shortly. You can read more actually on myjournline.com. What we are learning is that the report will be presented to the plenary. A decision will then be made on Sarah Joasafo. But for Henry Korte and Kennedy Japan, by a majority vote, they have been pardoned, and I will bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. But let's stay in Parliament. But the majority leader, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, is suggesting a cut in the number of ministers to 19 to help save the public purse. This, he says, should exclude the regional ministers who represent the president in their jurisdictions. He further argues that the presidential system of governance should be scrapped as a means of checking corruption. He spoke at a public lecture held at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And now Jima reports.
The public lecture was on the theme, the constitutional review, the perspective of a legislator. According to the majority leader, at least $50 million is spent on electioneering by a presidential candidate from the party level to the national election. Research by the Center for Democratic Development, premised on the 2020 general elections, estimates about $600,000 is spent by members of parliament to secure their seats. In checking the investments made to win elections, the majority leader in parliament suggests the Westminster system of government, where the Prime Minister is more accountable. Osei Mensah-Bonsu sides with a World Bank research which suggests small unitary countries like Ghana are better served with prime ministers.
Where we are going as a nation is not sustainable. We are getting on a very slippery road in terms of monetizing our politics, both parliamentary elections and presidential elections. And I think that, as a matter of fact, my personal preference is with the Westminster type, where the prime ministers are much more accessible to us. One, and then in terms of expenditures, they spend far, far less in getting themselves elected from the constituencies, right? And that obligation to satisfy sponsors is much, much less. And with that, we'll be able to deal with corruption. And then again, because the prime minister is a member of parliament, peer review should tell you that you can't be a prime minister when I know that before you became a prime minister, you had only one house. And 4 years after becoming a prime minister, you have 10 houses. My friend, where did you get it from?
The member of parliament likens the powers conferred on the president to that of a monarch, since he makes over 5,000 appointments to public offices. Mr. Mensah-Bonsu believes there should be a review in the constitutional provision.
Indeed, any president appoints more than 5,000 officers into public office. We are still counting. This certainly, Professor Chairman, is a monarch that the Constitution has created. The rest of us citizens hold him in awe, and even when he strays, it is difficult to talk straight to him. This arrangement needs to be revisited. It cannot be good for our growth. It cannot be good for the growth of democracy.
He further proposes ministers who are not part of cabinet should be cut off to save the public purse.
Many of our ministers do not add value to our governance. That's the truth. And I'm not here talking about the current MPP administration. I refer to all administrations since 1993. The time has come for us to seriously introspect on this. And hasn't the time come for us to place in the Constitution an upper ceiling on the number of ministers of state that we should have? As I've already stated, cabinet ministers assist the president in the evolution of policies. That is according to Article 76 of the Constitution. All bills and agreements that are presented to Parliament are underpinned by governmental policy and principles, which the cabinet ministers propose to cabinet. So if you are not a cabinet minister, you are not part of the process of the evolution of policy.
In concluding his lecture, the legislator said introspection into Ghana's constitution, which has a cumbersome amendment procedure, is long overdue. Nanaya Ochima, Joy News, Kumasi.
The Electoral Commission's decision to lay before Parliament a new constitutional instrument to pave way for the continuous registration of voters is already generating controversy. The law, once passed, will make it possible for anybody who turns 18 to go to the EC's district office with a Ghana card for their names to be included in the register. We have more on this shortly, but first, the EC's decision has generated controversy. The minority in Parliament is accusing the Electoral Commission of seeking to destabilize the country with its plan to create a new voters register with the Ghana card. According to the minority leader, Ernest Kojo who spoke to journalists in Parliament, the EC is also seeking to prevent citizens who do not have the Ghana card from using other means, especially guarantors, to register.
Matter that may threaten the stability of our country, since it borders on the right of a Ghanaian citizen to vote and to exercise that inalienable right to vote. Our understanding as we pick it up is that the Electoral Commission of Ghana is desperately planning to discard the 2020 voter register and replace it with a new voter register, which register is cost the taxpayer and the people of Ghana to build with $80 million thereabout. So in 2020, the Electoral Commission, against all sound and technical advice, replaced the 2016 biometric voter register. You all recall that. This decision of the Commission was without consensus by all political parties, civil society, and critical election stakeholders. In pursuit of that political agenda, the EC undertook a new voter registration exercise, which currently puts the voter population of our country at 17,041,340 voters. Our understanding is that the Electoral Commission is seeking to make the national ID card the only source of justification to register onto the voter ID card as their basis, the voter register. Our concern primarily is that in the past, since 1993, voter registration exercises that have been undertaken, you normally have the provision of a guarantor of other persons guaranteeing for persons to get onto the voter register insofar as it is established that they are Ghanaian and are of age and of sound mind and to participate in Ghana's electoral process to vote and be voted for.
Hannah Jisu also says the plan by the EC will disenfranchise some Ghanaians who have not had the opportunity to register for the Ghana card through no fault of theirs, and also people who have registered but have not received the cards yet.
There are many Ghanaians who are still struggling to have access to a national ID card legitimately. Now, it will interest you that currently the National Identification Authority has registered 16,654,000 persons. Cards printed 16,341,000. Card issued 13,300,000 against a voter register of 17 million. If you use that instrument of a national ID card against a voter population of 17 million, then there is a critical technical departure from the requirement. We may not even have a voter register to rely on for the conduct of the 2024 presidential and parliamentary election.
Let's go back to the phone lines now and speak to Kweku Asante, parliamentary correspondent, for details on the committee's report. I'm talking about the Privileges Committee's report on the 3 MPs. We know that Henry Korte and Kennedy Japan have been pardoned per a majority decision. A decision is yet to be taken on Sarah Adwoa Kweku. You are giving us the details of what transpired at the committee level per your sources when you lost you.
Yeah, and in terms of the decision on Sarah Adwoa, the committee has decided to prepare the decision because all the opportunity they provided her to join, either in person or via Zoom, another video conference means she did not take those opportunities. So the committee said they cannot hold judgment on the person they have not heard from. Yeah. And so they will report back on the House on the 2 MPs, but they will also tell MPs that the decision on Sarah Adwoa the House would have to take a decision on what to do with her, or whether or not they will give them more time to appear before the committee. So that is the lowdown with Sarah Adwoa.
When is this report expected before plenary?
Well, the committee's time that was given has long passed. They extended the time for now. And so it's expected that before the weekend, they will present the report or early next week.
Kweku, thank you very much for bringing us those details. Now, John is learning that the earliest the International Monetary Fund can take a decision on whether to give Ghana a deal will be in the first quarter of 2023. That's according to sources close to the fund. It followed a crunch meeting held by the IMF officials with Parliament's Finance Committee on Tuesday. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has details in this report.
Officials of the IMF held talks on Tuesday first with Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia before heading to Parliament to meet members of the Finance Committee. According to Joy News sources, the fund is seriously concerned about the country's debt position and will undertake a debt sustainability analysis before agreeing on a deal with government. The minority side of the committee had raised issue with government piling on debt and tasked the IMF to ensure a deal that would not worsen the country's debt position. It also emerged at this closed-door meeting that the earliest government could hope to get a deal with the IMF is at the end of the first quarter of 2023. The IMF also raised issues about the country's international reserves and tasked both sides of the political divide to find means to shore it up. The IMF team in Ghana is expected to wrap talks with various segments of the political class next week, after which Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will present to Parliament the 2022 mid-year budget review.
This is John News Prime with me, Ernest Kojo Manu. We're taking a break. On we return, we have some more stories for you, plus the latest in showbiz. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Now, three-fourths of Ghanaians disapprove of the recently passed electronic transaction levy, that's e-levy. That's the latest from the Afrobarometer survey, which we have just received. The government introduced the e-levy on May 1 in a bid to widen the tax net. However, a large majority of Ghanaians think it is a bad idea and will mean a greater tax burden on citizens. There are details for you on your screens. So it says the key findings: three-fourths of Ghanaians disapprove of e-levy, including 67% of who strongly disapprove of it. Only 2 in 10, that's 19%, endorse the new tax. A similar proportion, that's 76, think the e-levy is a bad idea because it will increase the tax burden on the poor and ordinary citizens. This includes 63% who strongly agree with this view. Also, three-quarters are also not very confident, and that's 24%, or not at all confident, 51%, that government will fulfill its pledge to use the revenues generated by the e-levy to fund development programs, and that includes creating jobs. Faced with the e-levy, Ghanaians are about evenly split as to whether they will continue to use electronic financial transactions or avoid them totally. And the majority of Ghanaians agree that there are several important goals that a tax revenue system must achieve, including ensuring that people understand that taxes they owe, that's 82%, reducing the tax burden 81%, using tax revenues more effectively 83%, and ensuring that citizens and businesses pay taxes, that's about 79%. We have more on myjoyonline.com. On our Joy Clean Ghana campaign today, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly has closed down a fellowship center operating in a residential facility near the Kolebu Teaching Hospital for failing to produce an operating permit and also for noise pollution. Michael Ashali has more.
So we are going to serve you a summons, a notice for altering your building permit. That is one. So for him, we are inviting him to the office right now, and we pray that you dismantle we are dismantling it now. And we wouldn't want you to use this place. We are carrying call the guys to come and dismantle the place. They should carry everything and put it in the car.
Director of the Environmental Health and Sanitation Unit of the AMA, Florence Kuchi, ordering for the dismantling of a makeshift structure located close to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. It served as a place of worship for members of the Elroy Fellowship. Florence explains why.
Have you earmarked in the permit? Is there a place in your permit that you say you will be using part of your premises as fellowship?
That's the more reason I'm trying to tell you that when we secured this land, there wasn't anything like a permit.
Okay. It's against the law to have a fellowship or a church within a residential premises, because every residential premises has a permit, and in the building permit you state what you are going to use your building for. Even if you are going to have just a one-story facility, the permit is given to you for just that one-story facility. If you want to change the style of the house or the premises, you need to go back again and reapply and tell them that this is what I earlier wanted to use this facility for, but now I want to change it into this. That is why the officers came around the first place and saw it and invited you people to come to the office. And then when you went to the office, they asked you to produce some things. First of all, you said EPA people came. You don't even have an environmental impact assessment. If you don't have it, that is against the law. Two, what they are doing here, they are producing noise, and the noise is not good for people who are living around. Somebody might have gone for night shift, and the person has come, want to rest. Then they are also here, having fellowship, making noise.
Metal by metal, the fellowship center is dismantled.
Apostle, how long have you been running the place?
Oh, we're here, that was, we started March. Yeah, that was March. Yeah.
March this year?
March this year.
I mean, how many people do you have there?
Roughly, I can say, we are not much. Roughly, I can say 15 to 20.
Apostle James Sarkodie Isiako is the leader of the Elroy Fellowship Center. This will not be the first time of having his fellowship center relocated by authorities. Previously, he pitched camp in Ablekuma, but was forced to leave. He says he is not worried about the action of the AMA. He saw this coming.
On Wednesday, we were praying. We came and we were praying, having the fellowship. So as we were praying along the line, the Lord revealed to me that I saw that certain people have entered, you know, and they came to scatter the place. So I saw it. So I told them, so we were praying about it. So on Thursday, two of my members also called me. One called me around 5:30, and another one to around 6:30, and told me that they have seen that certain people have come to the place to scatter. And I said, well, God is in control. Whatever it is, the Lord is in control.
You just prayed about it?
We prayed about it.
Would you say that your prayer worked?
Yes, it has worked.
Husband of Augustina Awotri, a pregnant lady who died in an ambulance whilst in transit from Takoradi to Accra after ambulance officials demanded 600 cedis, has testified before a bipartisan committee of parliament. The tearful husband has been telling members of the committee that he still has not been told what killed his wife, and that the ambulance made an emergency stop at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital where no medical official attended to them. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante reports.
Augustina Awotri, a beautician and trader, was pronounced dead not by medical doctors but by ambulance paramedics after no hospital official attended to them at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, according to the testimony of his husband, John Obriyeboa.
Cape Coast Teaching Hospital attended to you when you got there. Nobody came. Who then pronounced your wife dead? That same man who was sitting behind me. That same man. So I was even expecting later on that if the lady had died, it should be a medical. Somebody should tell them that same man. He told this
the wife, now deceased, had been referred to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, but her situation worsened on their way, prompting the ambulance to divert course to the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital.
Is your wife, right? Were they briefing you at every stage of the health condition of your wife, from the preparation of the CS session to the point of death? Were they briefing you? Were they giving you update? Nothing was told.
John Obrieboa told the committee the ambulance officials had earlier demanded 600 cedis, and that occasioned some delay before the ambulance moved from the Holy Child Hospital. He says there were occasional stops whilst on their way to the hospital for CPR to be performed on the wife.
Yes, they asked for money. That was immediately I went the van at Shaman Junction. The Amber van at Shaman Junction, then they asked for that money.
And did they give you any reason why they were asking you for money?
Yes, please. They told me there wasn't any fuel in the van.
John Obrieboa is now traumatized.
It was a somber atmosphere in the committee room as members asked questions of Mr. John Obrieboa, who had been providing some answers regarding the circumstances that led to the death of his wife. As we speak, there's no known cause of death because no postmortem was carried out on the wife before she was buried. She's asking the committee to do its work in a way that will lead to justice being served.
The committee is expected to call other witnesses, including the National Ambulance Service. The committee will also be looking to invite an independent pathologist from the Ghana Medical Association to help the committee come to a conclusion.
This is Johnny's Prime with me, Ernest Kojo Manu.